Hello, welcome to Bite Me Fanboy, a comics podcast. I'm Kate.
I'm Tom.
I'm Jordan.
And I'm Kirsten.
And today we're going to be talking about Harrow County, written by Cullen Bunn and art by Tyler Crook, and published by Dark Horse Comics. Tom, can you please give us a summary?
So, our story starts with a girl named Emmy who's just about to become an adult, and she's living on a farm in what appears to be, I believe it is, I'm going to double check to see if they give me an exact year. It looks very much like the turn of the century 1900s. And she lives in a place called Harrow County. Lovely little town, and definitely did not hang someone who they suspected of being a witch 18 years ago. And no matter what happens, no matter what anybody says, they definitely didn't do that. Anyway, so she's friends with a girl named Bernice, and she's raised by her father. And, well, to make a long story short, some weird stuff starts happening. Like, their cow gives birth to twins, and one twin is all weird and malformed, and the other twin looks fine, but it's stillborn, except after Emmy takes a look at it, that calf actually springs back to life and turns out to have been fine. So they aren't really sure what went on with that, but, Bernice's dad is like, hey, there's something weird going on, with something killing all your livestock. And the father just says, oh, no, there was some disease that spread through all our livestock combined with, bad years and bad weather. That's why they're all dead. Anyways, there's definitely nothing wrong or anything spooky about Emmy. Pay no attention to the giant, sinister shadow that is always behind her in the very beginning of this story. Anyways, Emmy is wandering around outside, and she sees a little boy, and she's in the woods, and she wonders who that boy is. So she tries to call out to him, and he runs away, and runs through a briar patch. And all of a sudden, his skin is left behind in the briar patch. It's really weird. She grabs the skin and puts it in her bag, which, I don't know. That is the most teenage girl-coded thing I can say as someone who's never been a teenage girl. I know so many people I grew up with who, if they saw that happen, they'd be like, well, he's probably going to need this back when he comes back. So, puts it in a bag.
The skin was talking to her, kind of.
He says little things. The skin says a few things.
And as someone who was a teenage girl, I did collect, snake skins and fun things. So, yeah.
Man, I'm glad you kept going with that.
Jordan, we cannot unpack that right now.
Anyways.
Did y'all not have bone collections?
Anyways.
Wait, we have to go back to that. What did you collect?
Well, okay, so my uncle has a farm, and I spent summers, we have family reunions during the summer there, and you find weird things. And also I spent a lot of time outside just gathering animals for giant terrariums, and occasionally you find bones and things, and so you clean them, and it's just something fun that you found.
Go on, Tom.
I was just going to say, listen, you're saying this, and Kate, you're trying to make this sound weird. I'm looking at a raccoon skull right now that my uncle picked up off of the ground in Florida and gave to me. So,
Tom, keep going with the summary.
So anyways, you find out that Emmy has a dream. She takes the skin home, sticks it in her drawer, and the skin actually can, say things to her about what the skinless boy is hearing. So it's kind of like a big one-way radio. But anyways, she has a nightmare about her father and mother finding her inside of the trunk of a tree. That definitely was not the tree they hanged a witch from. So there are a lot of people plotting about outside, and the skinless boy is transmitting this to his skin. All about how they're probably going to have to kill Emmy because she's clearly a witch, because she did that thing with the cow, and weird shit's going down, pardon my language. Everyone's a bit perturbed and worried about her, so Emily goes running away, because she can now, hear about him. She sticks the skin in her purse and runs off, and she finds Bernice. Bernice says, hey, a bunch of people are looking for you, and it's really weird. They turn out to be in a potter's field, which is an unmarked cemetery. All these ghosts appear, which are depicted really coolly because they're painted red skeletons outlined in yellow so they look like flames, and they don't say anything. And when Emmy tells them to move, they do, actually. It turns out, though, as the narration says, the reason the ghosts are there is not really to threaten them. It's actually trying to warn them off of traveling further down into the forest. But they keep going. There's a couple things that come into counter. There's a couple weird-looking creatures out there. There's also a big scary thing I think it's just known as, at this point, the Forgotten, which looks kind of like a minotaur with 4 eyes. I love that design, by the way. Anyways, Emmy finds her father, and her father is talking to her, and he's like, listen, I don't know what to do, because I think you're a witch, and I think, you are dangerous. And he grabs a hold of her. Bernice immediately, defends her and all that. All of a sudden, the skinless boy saves Emmy from her dad, scares off her dad. And also one of my favorite bits is that Emmy says, I'm not what he thinks I am. I'm not a monster, and I'm not evil. And her dad just kind of sadly says, no, but not yet. Emmy makes sure the skinless boy spares him and her dad's okay. He explains to her that they killed a witch 18 years ago and then found her in the tree that the witch was hanged from. Now that weird stuff's going on, they think that she's the witch Hester Beck reborn. Emmy makes sure that her dad and Bernice are okay and then goes off on her own. She says, it's like I said, I'm not some monster, but I can be. She travels along and is saved from being tracked by people by the town pharmacist, who happens to be driving by, and he turns out to know a little bit too much about her. He kidnaps her. Turns out he was actually a creation of the witch. A lot of people in Harrow County who are living perfectly normal lives are actually like clay creations by Hester Beck, because Hester was kind of a pariah, so she made fake people to be her friends and family. Now, the thing is that because she gave them free will and made them think they were regular people, a lot of them started suspecting Hester was a criminal and went and moved into town with all the other people who didn't like her. So are these little people all throughout the town who kind of are sleeper agents. The thing is that each of these clay people had an instruction to assist in Hester Beck's return if something like this happened, if there was a sign. So that's why the pharmacist is there. Now, after all of this, by the way, a little visual thing. When Hester Beck casts a spell on somebody, it's depicted as a snake coming out of her mouth and going into the ear of whoever she's influencing. And so the pharmacist has like an ear that looks like it's got some sort of rash, but what it is that it's swollen like it's been bit by a snake. It's a nifty little thing, and if you ever want to know if somebody's being influenced by the witch, check their ears, because if it's swollen up, that means there's a snake. They had a snake-bitten ear, and it's messing with they've got a spell on them. Emmy is saved by the skinless boy once more, who is basically her familiar now. He is there protecting her, and he can't talk, but his skin can talk for him. And so whenever Emmy's with him, like, her purse will be the thing that talks. But she goes back home, sees her dad and Bernice, and several people from like an angry mob of folks who are trying to get rid of her, the folks who were talking outside of her house way back when. They break into her house, they're threatening to kill her, and Emmy just unintentionally holds her hands out to stop them. And it turns out that those people who were after her were some of the clay people, and they just turn to ash and dust when they go after her. And she said, basically, hey, I'm not a monster. I'm nothing like Hester. But I will defend myself if you try to kill me. She goes up to her room, and a while later, she actually has this frankly, a very interesting conversation with her father, where her father there's apologies, and then there's like whatever the father is doing, which is part of... It's an apology, but also kind of like trying to understand his own feelings. Emmy is like, yeah, I know you love me. I know you were scared. And her father swears that he will never lay a hand on her. He will never threaten her. And he will love her until the very end of creation, which is good. It's very nice when, the person who tried to kill you because you're a witch, apologizes. Anyways, but Emmy settles down, becomes kind of a wise woman in the town. She's able to help people. If someone's sick and medicine's not working, she can help them. She can do all sorts of stuff like that. And so she's trying to help people. Meanwhile, in another town, possibly New York, there's a woman who happens to look a whole lot like Emmy. Like they could be twins. And she is named Cammy instead of Emmy. And she starts saying that she needs to go see Harrow County because the world is, in fact, hers. And that's the cliffhanger at the end of the first Harrow County book. I see that everything is all tied up and there's no surprises coming for us in book 2.
All right. Thank you. Jordan, did you want to talk a little bit about some stuff in Harrow County?
Sure. So I really love the art style for the book. I love watercolors in comics. And if you get the certain volumes of it instead of just the individual comics, it'll have a section of like sketches in the back, and it talks about the process that they use for sketching and then using watercolors as the color designs for it, and how they basically only get one shot to go over all of the pencils with the watercolors. But I think they do a fantastic job.
It's all done physically. It's not something where you can do a digital thing, which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I like like Tom was talking about with the skeletons, the contrasts that they'll do in some of the pictures. So, for example, when Emmy is having a nightmare, it tends to be more colorful than when she's in the real world. Also, when she is kidnapped by the pharmacist, those are some of the brightest panels in the book. His entire like background is like a bright pink versus everything else is mostly neutral tones.
It's very much like when there's something supernatural afoot, you get that really bright color that shows up. When there's something that's uncertain and people aren't sure what's going on, then it'll be dark and shadowy. When she's not sure what to do, she's in the woods. When people are questioning whether or not she's a witch, you'll see shadows. But like, if there is something blatantly supernatural, you're gonna have these like day glow colors on everything. Like someone drew it with a gel pen almost, but it's all watercolor.
Mm-hmm. And even the cover pages. So I like how they have the name of the comic Harrow County hidden somewhere in each of the cover pages. So spoilers, if you want to find it yourself, skip over a little bit. But we did volume 1, that was the graphic novel, and it collects comic issues 1 through 4. And so the name on issue 1 is in the clouds. In issue 2, it's like sticks on the ground. Issue 3 is a tombstone, so that one was a little bit easier to find. And then issue 4, it was tree branches. And I love it when they do something clever with the title on comics, and because you know what you're buying, but having to find like where they designed it to be in the cover and how it fits in with the cover is always fun to me.
My favorite, hands down, is there's one much later, I believe it's in the book Snake Doctors, where you see and because I mentioned that Hester Beck would have like a snake come out of her mouth when she does a spell. It's like someone has been trapping and holding off all of her spells. So you just see this Harrow County is spelled out in a bunch of writhing snakes that are all contained in mason jars. It's a really amazing visual.
They also do a lot with the speech bubbles in this comic. So anytime the Skinless Boy is talking, he has his own design for his speech bubbles. Additionally, there's a lot of changes in lettering when when Emmy is running, and like if she's whispering, the font size is significantly smaller. So they do very clever things with the design without doing a lot of different panel work. So most of the panels are the typical standard squares or rectangles. They will occasionally do these like beautiful multi-page spreads. So like the covers, or like when the Skinless Boy is defending her against her father, that's an entire page that is just that scene. So pivotal moments where they're trying to get you to focus on what exactly is happening. So that's the first time he actually shows himself to someone in order to protect her. And so you can see the focus on him in that scene. But yeah, I just love the design of this comic.
Kirsten, what did you think about the comic?
I really liked it. I had some, like, practical concerns. Like, if you're going into a briar patch and you see some skin hanging out, why do you collect it and put it in your bag?
Because she's a farm girl. It's something fun.
No.
And different.
No, that's something weird. Like, why? I didn't like that. I was like, what are you doing here? Like, nobody wants this. Nobody's asking for it. The skinless boy bothered me. Like, sure, he's cute, but like, why are you carrying him? Like, it's...
Because he's gonna need that skin when he comes back.
But she's not even afraid of it. She just, like, walks in there and she's like, ah, this is weird. Grabs it. And then she's like, I need to get out of here. That's it. That's no further discussion.
He's her familiar. She recognizes him.
Did she?
It's it's magic.
And then I think the most offensive part is, like, after she steals him from his home, she then puts him in a drawer. Like, if you've gone this far, like, why are you ashamed of him?
That was weird.
Well, it's because she was changing clothes and she didn't know if he would be able to see, so she wanted to make sure she wasn't, undressing in front of him. That's legitimate. She says that. She legitimately is like, well, you're still a boy, so into the thing you go.
But then she leaves him there.
She doesn't take him out. Yeah.
That's so rude. You took him from his home, and then you put him in a drawer.
Well, he doesn't live in the briar patch.
Does Emmy know that? See? Silence.
She recognizes that he's a haint, especially because he's heavily, like, the look of him has always struck me as, and I'm not sure where Harrow County is meant to be. I believe Cullen Bunn has said it's from, like, it's southeastern United States. So, like, if it's South Carolina or, like, maybe the coastal areas on Virginia, he has the aesthetic and look of a boo hag, if you are familiar at all with what a boo hag is. It's a folkloric monster that is known for being this, like, malicious force that will basically it's a nightmare type thing, and I'm there's a whole lot more involved in the Gullah culture and talking about it. I'm just, like, giving you the basics so that way, But yeah, no, he's clearly, which is interesting because I swear later on in the series there is a boo hag and he's different. But, like, the skinless boy is very much framed as looking like every time I've ever seen someone depict a boo hag.
I don't think you're helping your case here, because, like, let's say she does know he's a haint. Then, A, people have told her, don't fuck around with these. And B, she fucked around anyways and then took him from his home?
Well, she has yet to find out, apparently. Also, she's a teenager, and how many teenagers do you know if you say, hey, teenager, don't do this?
Nah, that's some kid shit. Teenagers aren't fucking around with skins. That's a child.
I've seen. Listen, I've known some teenagers. I've known some teenage girls who would. Not including Jordan. Not including Jordan. I did not know Jordan until, like, she was an adult. So if you ever hear this, Jacqueline, understand that I'm saying this in a complimentary way. I know you would not be, like, stupid about it. But I know you totally would be willing to be like, yep, that's a skin. We need to handle that and figure out what to do with it because we aren't leaving it here. I know someone who is like that, and it is true to who she is.
Jacqueline, I'm sorry he outed you like that.
Listen, Jacqueline's got nerves of steel and is a stronger person than me. I have no power over her.
All right, so I'm going to move us on. So, how would you classify Harrow County in terms of, like, genres?
It's a horror comic, but I find it to be a cozy type of horror.
It has a lot of horror stuff going on, especially in this first one. And there is going to be some horror iconography and stuff and visuals, and it has, like, a very spooky vibe. But my honest opinion is that at a certain point it stops being horror and becomes much more of a fantasy series, almost. It becomes much more about what I colloquially refer to as witch fights. If you've ever heard me say I'm here for the witch fights, it is entirely because of a marathon session where I was reading lots of Harrow County, and someone said, "What are you reading?" And I just said witch fights, because there's a lot of supernatural people and spirits and creatures, and they all kind of show up and become part of the story. And you get a lot of really good there's a lot of good like stuff with Emmy and her like feelings and learning about who she wants to be when she grows up. It's really good.
So, would you also say that it's like a coming of age story?
Extremely so. It is a coming of age story in where she's facing off against what people want her to be, derogatory, what people want her to be, complimentary, what she is not sure she wants to be, and learning from mistakes that her loved ones have made before. Like, part of why she is reconciling with her father is that she is learning from the fact that he made a mistake, and she is willing to not jump to that conclusion of someone being inherently like a threat and dangerous. And that is a major aspect of how she is able to make friends in this series. Because like the best way I could describe it almost is that it is a case. If you've ever seen the movie Men in Black, there's a scene where Will Smith goes through a shooting gallery and only shoots one thing, and it's like a kid walking with some quantum physics textbooks, and he says that looks really weird and it's out of place, because he looks at this monster and he says that monster's not snarling, he's got a tissue, he's just sneezing. It's like he's recognizing and understanding that this thing, just because it's scary, is not necessarily actually being aggressive or malicious. And it's very much that sort of thing as she's doing her coming of age story, is her if you've ever grown up and gone to college or gone to a different city, you suddenly meet a bunch of people who are different from you, that you don't have a lot of experience with, and they're different in such a way that you probably have ideas and preconceived notions, but they're not the same sort of thing as what you have in your head. And it's a very charming story, in my opinion. I know it's got all the horror look and everything, but it is a very charming story about this girl growing up and learning to figure out what she wants to be.
Mm-hmm. And even just the first volume kind of alludes to this story arc where in the first volume, her friends and family are the ones who are trying to kill her. And all the undead and creatures that she meet are helping her escape. So the ghosts are trying to warn her away. The skinless boy is trying to get her away from everyone, and he's protecting her. All the things that most people would see as monsters or horrifying are protecting her.
Well, as monsters, they've been there. They are creatures that expect this sort of treatment from people, and that's it's not stated outright, but that's kind of the thing, is that all of the haints, all the ghosts, all the creatures that you see in the woods come to expect this sort of thing. They expect torches and pitchforks. So that's why they just see that, oh, this is another one of us dealing with torches and pitchforks. We're going to have to, we can't do nothing. Let's help her.
Also, I guess I also want to talk about how, like, the tone of Harrow County and, like, this kind of sense of dread and anxiety that kind of permeates through at least the parts that we've read.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, Tom, you had mentioned that it's like a Southern Gothic kind of vibe.
Yes.
Do you know of any other, like, anything that the author has, like, drawn upon when he made this?
Cullen Bunn was using a lot of, like, Southern ghost stories and stuff like that. I'm going to double check where he's from. I want to say he's from South Carolina. But he has a very strong, like, entire, like, Southern spiritualism, supernatural folklore, that sort of thing. He does have, like, also, he has some stuff involving, the best way I could describe it is kind of pseudo-westerns. He did something called Sixth Gun, but he did a Black Widow tie into an event that was apparently really good compared to the rest of the event. It was an event that I did not get super into, so I never read his thing, but apparently that like helped get him on the map. But Harrow County is very much his baby. It's created by him. It's owned by him. And he's done a bunch of various, I don't know how to say it other than kind of spooky and horror adjacent things. He also, sadly, he created a comic book called The Empty Man, which is interesting. And then it was made into a movie. And the movie is actually like 3 individual good movies, but because they kind of like all are together, a lot of people did not get it, and a lot of people did not, give it a good review, even though in my personal opinion, The Empty Man is actually really good. But like that was a huge setback in his career. If you've never seen The Empty Man and you like cosmic horror and you like weird horror stories that mess with your perception, seek it out. I don't think the movie even got a wide release because it was released in 2020. So it's hard to find. But like that's a lot of stuff he's done. But like The Empty Man is Cullen Bunn going straight horror. And that's also kind of why I say this is more fantasy, just with horror aspects, because like I've seen when he goes straight horror.
So it looks like it's North Carolina that he's from, so it might be
Oh,
more
North
Appalachian
Carolina.
horror.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's more it's like Appalachian horror rather than Low Country. That makes a lot of sense. It's just I have a lot more experience reading about Low Country folklore and culture, and so that's where I'm like, that's when I see stuff. I'm like, oh yes, I recognize that part.
Yeah, the Minotaur is very much you don't look outside at night. You don't go outside at night. If you hear something in the forest at night, first off, no, you didn't. Second off, do not turn your back to the forest. You walk very slowly back into the house, facing wherever the noise came from.
I mean, I was going to say, yeah, you could also just say bears.
It's usually probably foxes, especially if it's a woman screaming, it's probably a fox.
Oh, yeah, I'm just talking about something that big and hairy coming out of the woods. I'm like, yeah, that's a bear. I'm leaving.
No, there's nothing there. We're just going to walk slowly back into the house and close and lock the doors, pull all the blinds, don't look outside.
Don't snitch on the bears.
Get your dogs and your shotgun, you're going to be fine.
I'm not super familiar with like Southern Gothic kind of horror, but I'm wondering if like the horror that he's playing with here in terms of like what he's playing with, the tone of it, the vibe of it, the characters, it's not necessarily just like scary creatures. It's also like the townspeople turning on a small child and like wanting to kill her. So It's very like human.
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of the horror.
That is a huge thing. If you ever read stuff that's like a lot of Southern Gothic stuff, there is the monster and there is stuff like that. But in the Southern Gothic horror stories, a lot of it's very Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, where it's the horror is actually that we've got a bunch of people all together and they are going to eat each other, metaphorically speaking, because they're scared. And that is like a big thing about like mob rule, panic, all that sort of thing. I can't imagine why that would be sinister and scary to people in the southern United States. I say sitting not far from a place where a man was absolutely murdered by an angry mob. And it was in a historic time. About, I'm trying to think. This was way after when Harrow County was set. I was about to say like I don't want to spoil where I live, but like I live next to a place where there was a infamous mob murder.
Yeah. You also, Jordan, you were talking a little bit before about like the watercolor style and how kind of like how beautiful it was and how it kind of resonated with you. You might have mentioned this before and I missed it, but I also think that kind of adds to the creepiness in a way because you're not expecting it, Because when I like picked up the book, I was struck by like, oh, it's so pretty and like the colors and like the style of the art is really nice. And then like there was some really creepy stuff happening and like the skinless boy popped out and I was like, oh, this is all kind of like masking something pretty dark underneath.
Yeah. Actually, I just thought, have you seen the movie Eve's Bayou?
I think I've heard of it.
That's very much like it's a different style of story, and they're covering different things, but like it clearly has a tradition similar to Eve's Bayou, which is this like coming of age story about a girl in the South, in this kind of time period, and there's folkloric elements going on the whole time. That is definitely a major part of it. I just realized, yeah, that is definitely like if you're not familiar with Harrow County, but you are familiar with Eve's Bayou, it's a very much, it feels like watching Eve's Bayou at certain points.
Jordan, what was your favorite part?
I like all the creatures. I like the art style. I was flipping through as just some of the pictures, and I love all the colors and like the dream sequences, and even the like the tree that they hung Hester in, and then that Emmy was born from, and like her nightmare where the tree has teeth, and that is very disturbing, and it's just screaming lies, and it's very interesting. But I also like how even in the first page, or I'm sorry, like the first section where we're talking about Emmy, and she's interacting with the cows, you can kind of see all the foreshadowing even that far in the beginning, because then we end in the volume where it's going, oh, there's her twin. So I like stories that are so well thought out that once you finish it, you can go back to the beginning and go, oh, all the signs were there.
Yeah. Tom, what about you?
So I am going to say, if I had to pick a specific point in the book, I will say the thing with the calf birth scene is really interesting if you know how this series ends and where this series is going, because you think, oh, this is just Emmy's twin, but there's other stuff. There is like an interesting duality involving Hester Beck that is not addressed for a very long time, well, comparatively, in terms of the volumes. But you find out there is like, Emmy's not the only one there with a twin. Hester has kind of an equal and opposite. But for me, hands down, I would say, because at this point you see various small supernatural things or their dreams. My favorite picture probably of this volume, there are many great ones, but I love the end of issue 2, where you finally see the ghosts for the first time, where they see all the ghosts rising out of their graves. It is so crazy and spooky, and you have that like neon color from the dream sequences that the ghosts have, intruding on the realistic, earth tones of everything else. And it's everywhere. It's all around them. It's not some sort of it's not something that's singular and by itself, like the Haint, the skinless boy. It is everywhere, all around them, and the colors don't look like they fit this world. It's such a great visual of like, this is the threshold. The threshold has been crossed. Also, my other thing probably has to be, I can tell you it's when you first see the snake coming out of Hester Beck's mouth. It's when I realized the reason the guy's ear looks the way it does is because of her like snake spell. It's not like a prominent thing. It's just like when you see the snake coming out of her mouth towards the guy's ear, and you see the guy covering his ear and it's bleeding. And like that was the moment where I realized, wait a second, oh, these people have like a curse on them. From the snake, and it's just like it made me want to go back through and look at literally every character, and look at their ears.
Yeah, I think it was the part with the Minotaur. Like, I just wanted to know more about him. Like, why is he so sad? And why does he suddenly have to kill Emmy if he missed her and he was lonely? Like, I don't get it. So I just wanted to know more about him.
Keep reading, we find out.
Yeah, we find out a whole lot about him. He actually gets, there's oh, I'm sorry, I said he was called the Forgotten. He's called the Abandoned, because I'm looking at my shelf and I'm like, yes, there is literally a book in this series called The Abandoned. And I'm just like, yeah, that's why it's called that. It's called that because it's about him.
He's just a sad boy.
Yeah, he is sad, and you're going to find out why, and you're like, yeah, I'd be sad too.
So, do we think that Emmy is going to follow in Hester Beck's footsteps? Is she destined to become like her? Or is she going to choose her own path, so to speak?
Tom and I can't answer that because we've read it. Kate and Kirsten, what do y'all think?
I think she's going to change because it would be unsatisfying narratively if she just like goes into what the people have destined for her, you know? What do you think, Kirsten?
Well, I mean, one of those two said earlier that like she becomes like a medicine woman in the village, in the town. So I don't know if like that's what really happened or if you just were talking about stuff.
That's what happens at the end of this book. She is doing that for people at the end of this book.
Okay,
There's more stuff going on because there's about 8 books in this series before you get to the spin-off.
I don't know, maybe she's got to have like an existential battle with her twin.
That would be fun.
What I will say is Emmy is forever changed and cannot go back to the way she was, but that might not always be the worst thing, but it is something that is very hard. Which is also just straight up what I could just literally say that about growing up now that I realize it. I'm like, yeah, no, that's the metaphor. I got the metaphor.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't get the metaphor.
Yeah, she can't go back to the way she was, and she will continue to change, and she won't be able to be the person she was before. But that's what she's going to have to rise to deal with as a challenge. Yeah, I will not spoil the ending for Kirsten, but it's interesting. It is very interesting because she has to make a choice. She has to make choices, and it's not always good guy choice versus bad guy choice. It is choices about how she wants to see herself.
So, okay. Interesting. So I feel like she has great character development.
Oh, yeah. Like, Bernice does, too. Bernice, I've mentioned a couple times, but, like, she's kind of there at the beginning, but Bernice raises up to be her own person, too, and she is very different from Emmy, and that's kind of one of the things that I really like, is that they're both on a journey, and they both go in very different style directions.
That's cool. So then what are some themes that you think we can kind of, like, pick out from this story?
I think from this story, there is this thing where in a lot of fiction, there is this, like, this is a fiction you see with a lot, and I'm going to say this again, I'm saying this as a guy, but a lot of fiction that depicts girls growing up has this almost kind of saint-like depiction of the little girl, where she's perfect and good and can do no wrong and all that. And from square one, we have Emmy being like, no, I don't want to hurt people. I don't want anything bad to happen to folks. But if you come at me, I will fight back. There is nothing, like, I'm not going to stop, I'm not going to just lie down and die because somebody's scared of me and I can't stand it. No, that's a you problem. And that's very necessary to point out when talking about it. And I do think that it is, like, clear that there is a witch, aspect of the story, and it's a coming of age story because, like, you have this weird thing where sometimes, I don't know, Jordan, what do you think, Jordan? Is there some sort of interesting aspect of how society treats little girls growing up and how witchiness intersects with it? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you can never do anything right. It's even when you are trying to be good, they're like, no, you're going to turn on us. Mm-hmm. So you're constantly being told, no matter what you try, that what you're trying is wrong. And if you are trying to help people, it's only because you are planning to do something horrible. And even when you look back at when it opens with them describing why they had to kill Hester and then watching how they treat Emmy, was Hester actually doing something bad? Or did she just have a contingency plan in place because she knew these people were going to turn on her and start spreading rumors about her? Because, of course, she couldn't just be helping people.
So Hester is an antagonistic force throughout these books. I'm not going to lie. Hester is antagonistic. But Hester I find fascinating because she is, like, exactly what Jordan just said. That you're wrong no matter what. Like, she is the end point of that. She is what someone can become when everybody else treats them as wrong no matter what. And I think that's incredibly intentional about her character.
If people keep telling you that you're evil, even when you're trying to do your best and you're trying to help everyone and trying to prove them wrong, but they just keep telling you that you're evil, at some point you're either going to completely give up and go away from everyone, or you're going to go, fine, you want evil? I'll give you evil.
Does the dad play a large role in the book going forward?
Yes.
I don't like that.
Well, he's not a mover and shaker of the story. He is part of Emmy's life because Emmy does genuinely love her father and wants him to be part of her life. And he is also someone who, while he has opinions, does genuinely offer her the ability to make her own decisions. And that's a very important aspect, because, like, this was when her father tries to sit there and say what to do. And he's not really in that place anymore. He is letting Emmy determine herself. And she does love her father. It's just, there is this, like, I mean, it's a growing up story. There's a loss of innocence and a breaking of a bond of trust between her and her dad. And she's trying to figure out how all of this, what all of this is going to mean, because she does want to have a relationship with her father. She does love him still after everything. But even if he says he's going to love her till end of the universe, like, she still does know that he did join up with the mob. And she's still trying to reconcile. She is trying to reconcile that. She is trying to reconcile that with herself through the story. And it's not this. I haven't reread the series completely, but I don't think they're, like, letting the dad off easy per se. I think they're just kind of, Emmy is trying to figure out how she wants to deal with her relationship with her father going forward. But he doesn't kick her out. She stays living in that house. She doesn't lose her home or anything like that. That is necessary and a part of the point of the thing, what's going on.
And with the coming of age story, I mean, how you relate to your parents changes when you get older, especially going off to college when you no longer have to depend on them for everything. So it's very much how do you deal with that?
I just was very upset when he just, like, threw her to the wolves.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that this is a story where when people give in to their baser instincts, they will eat each other no matter how much they love each other. And for lack of, without getting into the spoilers, but that's very much like Hester is like, yeah, this is what happens. Like, people will screw each other over, they'll kill each other, they'll hurt each other if they think someone's a threat. They will feel first and think later. And that's a really nasty thing. So you've got to protect yourself from that. And that is, like, an aspect of Hester. Interestingly, that's an aspect of Hester with her own family. I know I mentioned the Clay people in the summary, but she has a family, present tense. And you're going to see how that goes as the story goes on, about how you look at Hester's family, you look at Hester, and you look at where her family used to be, and you just are like, okay. Choices were made. Choices were made, and people could have been better. And that's kind of the tragedy of a lot of stuff in the backstory. There were opportunities to have been better, and people did exactly what I said. They let their, baser selves make the choice rather than trying to rise to the thing. And that's very much a part of this story. And it's a part of how Emmy has to negotiate growing up, because she doesn't want to be that kind of person. She wants to, grow up to be better. And so does Bernice. Bernice wants to grow up to be better. It's just, at the same time, they still have to be able to defend themselves, and they have to recognize that, there are threats in the world, and they do need to stand up for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And even in the real life witch trials, families and friends were turning on each other. So sometimes it was forced by the state through torture, and then other times if someone had a disagreement. So I know I can't remember the names, but I know there was definitely at least one husband that was tired of his wife and said she was a witch to get rid of her.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, and
Well, yeah.
yeah. Uh, like I have I'm gonna like this is not really related to the story, but like I have a fascination with witch trials, and not just witch trials, but how pop culture depicts witch trials. Because there is this weird thing in so many pieces of fiction where the witch there are so many pieces of fiction where they want to go, but what if the victims of the witch trials were witches? And it's so weird to me that that is a thing. Like, I get it, because you want to have an excuse to have witches in a story, but the idea of what if this, person who we know in real life was an innocent victim actually was secretly a witch? It's such, I don't know, it is something that bothers me so much that I find it fascinating, and I want to like learn more about that impulse and that storytelling device, because like the two times I think of a witch trial and discussing witches really worked well in like making being willing to talk about the real life history, but also not giving into those baser like urges, is the movie Paranorman, and the episode of Newhart called Mrs. Newton's Body Lies a Moldering in Her Grave, which is about the protagonists, who are a married couple who run a like Revolutionary War era inn, find out that their basement is land where a woman who was hanged as a witch was buried, because she wasn't allowed to be buried in the churchyard. And it goes. I'm not going to spoil it. Look it up. It's called, like I said, I said the episode in there. It's Newhart. It's not the Bob Newhart show. It's the show he did after that. But it's the ending I find weirdly touching, and it's so weird because it also has three of just the weirdest little guys who show up. Their names are Larry, Daryl, and Daryl. They're brothers. And you're like, wow, this is this weird little episode with a bunch of guys who are strange. And then there's, this monologue about real life victims of witch trials. It's such a weird mix, but it always stuck in my head since I was a kid and I saw that episode. So, like, yeah, I find how we talk about witch trials in our stories and everything incredibly fascinating, and almost like worth investigating because of how it is expressed in fiction.
Mm-hmm. And I found the name of the couple that I mentioned earlier. So it was Giles and Martha Corey. So originally he accused her, and then when he tried to recant, they're like, "Oh no, you're suspicious, so you're also a witch." Oh. So
well, Giles Corey did die in the most badass way possible during the Salem witch trials. They asked him to testify. He said nope, and they said, "Well, we'll press you to death with giant rocks if you do, or if you don't testify." And he said, "Okie dokie, more weight." And those were his last words before he was crushed to death by giant rocks.
The ancient version of a weighted blanket.
Yeah, he stimmed too hard. But anyways, Giles Corey went out with integrity.
After accusing his wife and getting her murdered too.
Yeah, but he willingly let himself get pressed to death by the stones, and is like, yeah, add more weight,
He had a redemption arc.
I was going to say, like, I'm not one to say that dying for something counts as redemption, but being slowly pressed to death with stones and being willing to die for that because of how messed up things are, and, what you did and what everything is going on, I think that counts a little bit in my book.
All right. Well, unless we have any other thoughts, I am going to move us to Thomas the Take Engine. Does anybody have any hot takes and or controversial opinions?
I mean, you kind of heard my my main hot take about like witches in fiction and stuff, and I think this story doesn't go like as far as something like Paranorman, or like I said with the Newhart episode with the whole, no, there wasn't a witch, but instead it goes into kind of a different territory, so it adds moral complexity to someone who would be like a pariah in the community. So I do think that it's interesting, and I want to see more of that in fiction, but that's like my hot take.
My one thing that I did not like is that they showed Hester burning where we did not burn witches in America. That is a European thing.
Oh.
Well, I was going to say, actually, the witches in Europe were, or the heretics in Europe were burned. I was going to say, I think was specifically it was heresy, not witchcraft.
Some witches were. It depended on the
it depends on the country,
so
probably. Yeah. Sorry, I just was like, yeah, no, it's probably not one thing, isn't it? Yeah.
In Ireland, you were actually hung and then your body was burned. But I think in Scotland was one of the ones to where they believed that if they burned you, it would remind you of the hellfire, so you would repent before you died.
Yeah, and in America we hung everybody, which is also that's a line in Newhart. That's a line in Newhart. They said, "This is America. We didn't burn witches. We hung her."
We drowned witches too, and then Giles Corey was pressed to death.
Yep, like a panini.
Exactly like a panini.
Don't make me laugh. It's horrible. It's not something to laugh at.
Yeah,
Jordan,
but
we
also...
have to laugh, otherwise we'll cry. Who had the best, worst drip? So the best drip or the worst drip? I didn't think any of the clothes really stood out to me. Maybe the skinless man.
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat. If you have the trade paperback that I have, if you're in the back, there is a whole section about, like we mentioned, the sketches and art and everything. There's also a bunch of covers that were variant covers. Mine is Shane White's drawing of Hester Beck, which is she is she's wearing a blue dress. She's standing in a pool of water that is like burgundy colored, holding a red cow skull over her face. And like that's what you want as like your employee ID picture right there. Like that's your power move, is you have that be your profile picture anytime someone sends an email with like, to whom it may concern.
If we're talking literal drip, there's also the picture of Hester holding the bloody and dripping cow skull.
There you go.
Oh yeah, there's that. I mean, the ghosts look great, but they aren't really wearing anything. They're skeletons, which is about as wearing nothing as you can be.
They're wearing those flames, though.
They are wearing flames. Okay, that counts. That counts, and the ghosts do look great in that. But, like, the best outfits, I'm going to be honest, the best outfits are way yet to come, because Cammy always is serving a look, and then when you get into the other supernatural creatures and supernatural beings, like, they all have very distinct vibes and looks in a good way.
All right. What about any of the best words? So what words were the best in the comic? What spoke to you? Were there any good quotes that you really liked?
So in the picture that Tom likes, where we have the ghosts and they're surrounding Bernice and Emmy, and we have the voice of the skinless boy, where he's just going, "You're not alone," and it's as the ghosts are rising around her. I just thought that was it, because it looks very creepy, but when you realize that all of the creepy things are protecting her, it's very comforting.
Aw.
Yeah, he's saying you're not alone, because they're saying, like, no, we're here to help.
Yeah.
Which is a different type of thing.
But just looking at the picture, you would think, oh, this is not good. But then when you're understanding the story, it's just, I don't know, it's sweet.
Yeah.
All right. And then adaptation analysis, or casting corner. So how do you think they would or could adapt this story into like a movie or a TV series? What would you want to see?
I think Sci-Fi bought the rights to it, right?
Sci-Fi bought the rights to it, and they were going to do it was originally going to be, I think, a novel. It never got appeared as a novel, so instead they made the comics. But like, yeah, there's a bunch of different attempts. Hands down. So there's a movie that was not super popular from a couple years ago called Cobweb. Cobweb, it throws a lot of creepy things at the wall, and some of it sticks. It's not really like, if you're looking for a satisfying horror movie, because it was kind of like promoted like it was going to be some elevated horror movie. It's not. It's more like a feature-length Tales from the Crypt episode. But Lizzie Kaplan is the mom in a family, and there's so many creepy scenes she has in the movie. She does such a great job being creepy and like being in shadow and all that sort of thing, and being kind of over the top and outsized. I would have her be Hester Beck. Like, if you want to have that kind of thing, Lizzie Kaplan would do a great job as like a weird, creepy version of like this crazy lady who is at the end of her rope, but scary.
Okay. I also wanted to ask Tom, you and Jordan, if somebody really liked this story, this book, what would you recommend them pick up next?
So there is. It's not finished. It is a episodic video game. But if you ever want to just absolutely sink in this vibe and feel it, look for the video game. It's basically a visual novel where you have like choices and stuff. It's not like a game. It's much more like a. I sound like I'm discounting it. I just want to let people know when I say it's a video game. It is a really brilliantly done visual novel, and it's called Scarlet Hollow. It is absolutely fantastic. It is set in North Carolina. It is all of these vibes. It looks like it doesn't have a watercolor aesthetic, but with the colors and the way they depict colors and supernatural stuff, it just has such a strong vibe of Harrow County that I would love to see the Abby Howard, who is I believe the main creative force behind Scarlet Hollow. I would love to see Cullen, Bunn, and Abby Howard talk about Southern Gothic spooky stories, because they clearly have so much that they both love about this and that they have in common in between these two stories. But it, weirdly enough, it also, Scarlet Hollow has this question of is the protagonist going to be a force of good or a force of evil? But it's not like magic or anything. It's is this person going to be a jerk because they're like related to the richest family in town, or are they going to be a nice person? Because that's like it's a lot of interpersonal stuff in Scarlet Hollow. So like I would say that's a really good like comparison, honestly. And I legitimately have considered, I'm like, oh man, I kind of want to go back and reread, I guess reread would be the right way to describe it. Reread Scarlet Hollow because of that. Also, if you want something that's a bit lighter but has a bit of energy similar to this, I'm going to be honest, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou or Big Fish, they both have kind of a Southern Gothic fantasy vibe rather than horror, but those are both very much in that kind of vibe.
So I'm going to suggest The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. So it's a book. It is fantastic. She writes a lot of Appalachian horror, but I think The Twisted Ones is probably the closest vibe-wise. The dog is fine, by the way.
It's important.
Little spoiler, but I know a lot of people in our group, and including me, the dog is fine.
I'm not familiar with I've not read The Twisted Ones, but I have read the thing that, like, it's an adaptation of an older story, which I absolutely love the name of it, because the minute I say the name, it's like a record scratch in any conversation. Because the book is, I'm not kidding, it's literally called The White People. It makes sense in the story, but people look at that and I just say, yeah, I'm reading a book. It's called The White People. And they all just like kind of go, wait, what? It's a horror novel called The White People. They're not talking Caucasian. They're talking.
It's not just history.
No, it's a book. They call them The White People because it is a translation of an older phrase that if you said it the other way it's translated, you would very likely run into the situation of just someone straight up saying, oh, okay, I know what this story's about. Let's just say The White People is like synonymous with what the creatures are. It's just they don't say their common name. I'll just say that. Jordan, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay. And so in the Twisted ones, it's very much that is not a deer. Deer don't move like that. But The Hollow Place is also by T. Kingfisher. It's also a very much the similar vibes to where it's, I think this thing is okay, or this thing should not be moving the way it is. And if you're familiar with the podcast Old Gods of Appalachia, that's another if you want Appalachian horror.
Old Gods of Appalachia. I don't know, would the Magnus Archives count towards this? Because there is some, maybe it's in the later stories, but it does have some Magnus Archives vibes, I would say.
Okay, because that one's more of a cleaner horror to me. Not so much a, like, folky, but...
Yeah, well, I was going to say, the Magnus Archives in its meta-narrative, because you keep seeing all of these spooky things, and it becomes like a cleaner, like you said, like a cleaner narrative. It's a guy dealing with the aftermath of all of this. But if it's from the perspective of people who are just the ground floor people dealing with all of this, like, they are dealing with something akin to this story. But you're right, it is kind of like, yeah.
So it also reminded me, if you're going for just like, there's something off in this town, you could always just listen to Welcome to Night Vale. That's always a good listen anyway. But
well, I mean,
this is a normal town, except
tone.
Dogs are not allowed in the dog park.
Yeah, do not look at the dog part.
All hail the glow cloud.
Anybody else have any last questions, comments, concerns before we wrap up?
Cullen, Bunn, I know you can hear this. Finish Tales from Harrow County. It ended on a cliffhanger, and it's been years. I need you to finish the story, because I'm sitting here anxious trying to figure out how this is going to end. So this is your job. Finish the story. I don't care if you've got a million great movie deals and you're now writing event comics for Marvel. As someone who is a fan of your lesser known indie comic, I know that I take priority over paychecks. And I want you to finish the story, Cullen, because it's such a good story, and I want to know how it's going to end.
Yeah, Cullen. All right. Thank you for joining us on Bite Me Fanboy, a comics podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow comic fans. We will see you next time. Bye.